Welcome back, everybody. This segment's going to be very interesting because I have to catch up on a little bit of drama that's been happening with a friend of the show. You see, Nyara VT, or VTuber, follows me on Twitter, and I actually covered one of her videos a while back, and I really liked it. I thought it was pretty good. But recently, she's gotten into some drama with Asmongold. Actually, I think it's happened twice now. A little while ago, earlier in the stream, people were saying, didn't this happen earlier this year? Why are you covering old drama? And that's not actually the case. I am not covering old drama. I am covering really, really new drama you don't even know about yet. Because in the last couple days, Nyara has been inundated with harassment by Asmongold fans because Asmongold is once again going after her. But this time, it's not just the general Asmon calling someone dumb or whatever. Asmongold seems to have either outright stated or at least implied that Nyara is a groomer. So the harassment coming from his fan base is a lot worse than it was previously. And I thought we'd go over some of the posts that Nyara has made. Many of them are clips of Asmongold's stream and of her own stream. So we should be able to put a lot together with this story going through her Twitter over the last couple days. This first one should give us a good idea of what's happening as like a start. She tweeted this. Trust me, Asmon, I'm very aware of what happens to people like me when people like you get full control of the government. It just blows my mind how you can cheer that on and claim it's my fault. But hey, anything for views and money, am I right? So let's see what Asmongold is talking about here. I have not watched any of this yet. I've kept myself unspoiled. But before we get into it, there'll be a link down below to Nyara's channel. And if you want to support mine, consider leaving a like if you enjoy the video, comment down below who up Xandering they haul if you want to boost it in the algorithm if you don't know what to say. Subscribe if you want to see more from me, leave a hype if you want to, join my fan Discord through the link down below. Without any further ado, let's get right into it.
US is over, they'll have to add laws and regulations to free speech in order to not protect hate speech. Being allowed to maliciously spread misinformation without consequences and thus normalizing fascist propaganda is bad for a country, actually. I've got really bad news for you. Is that, what do you think happens whenever people like me, or people that are more extreme than me, inevitably get control of the government? What do you think happens to all the people that were tweeting nonstop about trans kids? What happens to them?
When they get power, they don't care about how the rules work. When they're not in power, they just institute the laws they want to. That's what's happening right now. Donald Trump is using unilateral executive power to do whatever he wants. So enforcing laws how you want them to be enforced when your side is in power has absolutely no effect on how the other side will run the country when they're in power. The idea that they will is ridiculous. God, look at Asmon's face here. Dude, I swear to God, Asmongold used to be really reasonable. Like, even back when he's had a really weird political journey. Around 2016, 2017, he was a Trump supporter. But he was kind of on the fence. And you could tell from 2019 to, I want to say 2020, he was not a Trump supporter anymore. He was arguably quite left-leaning. He was arguing with transphobes in his chat, for instance. And then after the Johnny Depp Amber Heard trial, when he went viral in the right wing, he blew up so much, and he's now had so much pushback from the left. I guess he's just been fully sort of compartmentalized into being that right-wing streamer, no one's ever going to accept him as anything else, and now he's kind of in a cycle of rage-baiting lefties with takes that he doesn't even know are hateful, I bet. The way he carries himself, it gives me the vibe that he is just unaware of how hateful some of the positions he's taking are, because I don't think he feels like he's hateful. I don't think he thinks he's full of hate. I don't think he necessarily even hates trans people. The fact is, he's a very confident guy who is full of himself and thinks he knows more than he does. He used to be a lot more humble. He used to be yeah, I'm a dumbass. I'm just a guy who plays WoW. Who gives a shit, man? Stop taking this so seriously. He used to be a lot more humble, but he's definitely gotten a lot more pretentious, smug, high-horsey. XQC was saying even recently, and XQC is a pretty good friend of Asmongold's and respects him a lot, was saying even he thinks Asmongold has gotten a lot more radical. And I've been watching Asmongold since 2017, 2018, I want to say. At the very latest, it was 2018. And he's definitely changed. I watched him when he was originally a Trump supporter. I watched him when he wasn't. And now he's a conservative again, and this time it's different. It's so much worse than before.
And now you can see why these people are so extreme. It's because I think on some very, very base level, they know their days are numbered. There is not any degree of activism, virtue signaling, crying, like victimhood that's going to save you. It's going to happen. And it's your fault. It's all.
Saved from what, dog? What the hell? Once again, this is what he's been convinced that trans people are predators. Dude, I remember back in the day when he'd be reacting to Barney Beekeeper's videos, and there'd be transphobes in the chat just saying the exact shit Asmongold says now, and he'd be banning them. Maybe not banning them, but more often than not, he'd be dunking on them and very openly calling them out in the chat and telling them why they're wrong. Xander, he wants this game ended? I guess so. Maybe maybe he is hateful now. God, I wish I could have a conversation with Asmongold. The problem is, I would try to take it from a somewhat kid gloves angle. Not kid gloves, that's not the right word. I wouldn't be too confrontational. I would genuinely try to be persuasive as much as possible. And I don't think you guys would enjoy that as much as me going in there trying to destroy him. But, like, I should never debate not Hassan. I should never debate Asmongold, because I used to be a fan of him, and I want him to get better. And I shouldn't, like, that wouldn't be good for a debate. People would want me to destroy him, and I wouldn't be able to do that because I want him to get better, and I'd have a hard time being too mean to him. And, like, he does deserve somebody to own him, right? Like, he doesn't deserve an easy kid gloves debate. He deserves somebody owning him. You know, he's been very mean-spirited about trans people. And at the end of the day, I really would just like for him to actually research this stuff. Like, write down each of the statements that he believes about trans people. Minors should not receive any kind of gender transition care. That's probably a position he holds. Write that position down. Hormones are harmful to minors. Hormone blockers or puberty blockers are harmful to minors. Kids cannot realize they're trans. Like, write down all these positions he holds, and then Google all of those, like, statements as a question. And just look through the results. See how many very recognizable, reputable organizations have results relating to that question. Read at least a few lines. You know, most of these studies will typically tell you the conclusion in the top line. Like, the conclusion's at the top. So you can read the conclusion, which is like a small paragraph, and get each of your individual questions about each of these positions answered. Like, do you actually have positions that are rooted in facts and not reality? Or facts and not reality. In reality and facts and not emotion. Everybody wants to protect children, so it evokes a lot of emotion when you think maybe children are in danger, but nobody has these positions about any other procedure that children might go through, like having a kidney donated to a parent who needs one, right? Like, we don't hold these standards for anything else. Having tonsils removed, getting an appendix removed, having a gallbladder removed. Like, we never bat an eye at children having this done because we know it's for the best. The scientists and doctors know that kids transitioning, if they have gender dysphoria, is for the best, under medical supervision and with the guidance of counselors and mental health professionals, and all of a sudden it's a big political issue. Anyway, let's continue onward, because the harassment obviously came in mass, and Nyara ended up streaming and posting this clip responding to all of the hate. And based on how she words this, I can only assume it's, like, kind of sarcastic. She said, "After reading through my tweets, I'd like to apologize for making the trans community look bad by repeatedly talking about how I want trans kids to live. This is obviously wrong, so from now on, I'll be one of the good trans women and call myself a mentally ill biological male, quote-unquote." Very banger tweet. It's obviously sarcastic. But yeah, that's more or less what people are asking of Nyara, if they're trans and they're getting mad at her for this, because trans kids exist. Transness is not forced on kids, okay? To be trans is, well, okay. To be trans is to identify as a gender different from the one you were assigned at birth. Gender dysphoria is by far the most common reason why people identify as a gender different from the one they were assigned at birth. And so, by that extent, yes, my point still stands. As a biological male asking for myself, is there a mentally well cis male? Find one, and I'll give you a block of gold.
Quote-unquote grooming victims because you refuse to engage with trans issues in a meaningful way. You support conversion therapy, which is child abuse, and you use your faith as a shield when you get criticized, so I leave trans people alone.
Bit of a problem.
Both of these people labeled me as a pedophile and groom in front of tens of thousands of people because I acknowledge the existence of trans kids.
An issue. A certain
haven't tweeted about children today. So protect trans youth. Trans kids exist and they deserve to live happily and authentically.
Individual. Perps.
Whose fault is it again when trans kids end their lives? Or do all VTubers do VTubing to lure kids in, or only the trans VTubers? I see you use a cartoon.
Just to back this up with a bit of data, I believe it is 72% of transgender youth see a massive drop in suicidal ideation and depression when they have at least one person in their life who is supportive of their identity. You can only imagine how much better it is if they have more than one. If it's a family member, like a parent, and not just a friend or a family friend, it can be as high as 90% of trans kids see a significant decrease in depression upon having their gender identity validated by someone close in their life, or multiple people close in their life. Yes, trans people have a very high rate of depression and suicide. You know who else does? Cis men. We've been talking about the cis male suicide epidemic for years and years now. And of course, cis men are when we talk about this for men, they're obviously the victim here. You know, we're always talking about how can we have conversations about how men, you know, why are men killing themselves so much? And that's good. That's good. We should be talking like that. We should be having those conversations. But for some reason, trans people killing themselves at an alarming rate is only a punchline to these people. They don't actually care. Any group of people they pretend to care about is all just virtue signaling. These right-wing grifters are always just trying to talk bad about the right people you're supposed to talk bad about, and talk good about the right people you're supposed to talk good about.
Avatar to lure kids in, gross.
That's with kids.
So you want to kill trans kids? Question mark. Wanting education and healthcare for trans kids doesn't make me look bad. You, on the other hand, wanting them to be tortured makes you look like a psycho. Nyara is a Peter on a group of inside trans women who wants trans kids to have healthcare and education. I wish accusing me of predatory behavior would have consequences for them, but instead the extremists can just lie about me and set their wild audience after me. Ironic, isn't it?
Nyara is one.
Dude, it's such a frustrating position to be in when you are a creator with enough of a platform that getting harassed, like, there's a reason for people to go out and harass you. That is to say, like, you're not just a nobody who isn't really worth anyone's time. You are a somebody. So people will feel it's worth their time to go after you if they don't like you, but you're not so much of a somebody that you can actually rival, like really, really rival. Actually, you know, I stand corrected. To be fair, Nyara has been pulling some pretty big... This tweet doesn't have that many likes, but the last couple that we covered had like 10,000, one had like 40,000 likes. So a lot of her posts have been getting a lot of traction, but she's not big enough to rival Asmongold in terms of momentum, right? And so the harassment and the getting misrepresented and lied about to such a massive audience as a proportionally much smaller creator is a level of stress that most people will thankfully never experience in their lives, and I hope none of you ever have to. I've been there, Nyara's there right now, and I sympathize massively, and I hope none of you guys can ever sympathize. I hope you can empathize, but I hope none of you can ever sympathize. I hope none of you ever go through it yourselves. It's awful.
Coming after me, like, she came after children in Roblox, or like she came after me for wanting trans kids to have access to healthcare, education, and get proper representation. I think it's funny that trans folks share my old tweet to call me a groomer literally show others trans kids deserve access to education and healthcare and think that's an own. Why do I keep, like, repeating like the same point of, like, me being portrayed as, like, a groomer and whatnot, and me, like, explaining that this is just me wanting to have trans kids have access to education, healthcare, representation, and whatnot? LGBT Alliance and other hate groups want the NHS to tell young trans kids that they'll never be able to access the spaces that align with their gender identity. This is just cruel and shows that their entire existence is not uplifting the LGBT community, but to bully trans people.
Percent obsessed with this. Oh wait.
True.
Trans kids exist. I was not groomed into this. I knew who I was and I knew why I was different, but I never spoke to anyone about it. I didn't have trans education or representation. I was all alone with this, and that made me anxious and depressed from a young age.
Wait, guys, you thought it was over? No.
And this is many trans people. Sadly, Asmongold's audience probably has a lot of young teens and maybe younger who have gender dysphoria and are pushing it down. They're kind of like compartmentalizing it and ignoring it and denying it away. They're in the denial phase. And one day when they're older and unfortunately they've gone through the wrong puberty for a little while, they're going to wish they'd been a little more open-minded and accepted it when they were a kid, because maybe by the time they were going through puberty, they could have been on puberty blockers. Now, it's not the end of the world if you go through puberty without, like, realizing you're trans. You can come back from it, but it's a harder journey. And trying to set up a bunch of gender dysphoric kids to have that harder journey is really, really bad. And the thing about this is, I know for a fact in the coming years we're going to see waves of trans Gen Z, like this batch of younger Gen Z, coming out to say that all these right-wing pundits tricked them into staying in the closet and denying their transness to themselves. That's a big factor that's going to break a lot of Gen Z out of this is the fact that a lot of them are going to realize they're gay, bi, trans, lesbian, etc. Ace?
No.
Also, obviously, trans kids can't consent to gender affirming care, but it's fine to force an intersex child to go through surgeries that make ambiguous genitalia a binary thing. If these people were at least consistent. Rolling eyes emoji. Why do you want trans kids to go through irreversible changes that cause depression, anxiety, and suicidal thoughts? Being intersex.
Like, the crazy thing is, do people like Asmongold not know that in the United States and most countries, if a child, like a 10-year-old child, has a parent who is in the hospital dying of kidney failure, if they have matching kidneys, that child can consent to donating their kidney to their dying parent. Like I believe they need another guardian's consent as well, but at the end of the day, if the kid doesn't say yes, the kidney's not coming out. So we clearly do consider, in medical matters, the child's ability to weigh whether or not they want to make a serious medical decision, such as donating one of their kidneys to a family member in a family with a history of failing kidneys. That's a serious decision to make, and we allow children to make that decision. Hey, Delancer, you're a doctor. Here we have our resident doctor in chat. We're talking about this right now. Children can agree to donate their kidneys or their kidney to a dying parent, right, Delancer? Like, they can consent to that and go through that procedure, because nobody loses their mind over that. No one loses their mind over kids having their tonsils taken out, having their appendix removed, having their gallbladder taken out. Hell, a lot of people don't even lose their mind over kids having minor cosmetic surgeries these days, especially if they have, like, you know, some kids get born with some unfortunate features, perhaps on their face or whatever, and if their parents can afford it and it helps them be more socially successful, they might get a little bit of work done. Even then, most people are like, yeah, okay, that's justifiable. Why is it that when it comes to this one issue, people allow their emotions to cloud their judgment so much, and they apply a standard they do not apply to literally any other similar example? The only difference is trans people. That's it.
So cis kids with gynecomastia, etc. needing to be fixed because quote unquote they are programmed, but wanting trans kids to go through changes that don't align with their gender identity was wild. I thought if I apply their logic instead of pushing back, we'd get somewhere. Crying emoji.
It's just crap.
It wasn't a joke, it just looks bad if you don't understand the context around it. It was controversial on purpose, but underestimated the amount of media illiteracy from the right. The video was about why trans people care about trans kids and why we want to provide education. This is like a screenshot of a description of a video that I made a long time ago, January 3rd. In this video, I talk about my journey as a trans person and the steps I need to take in order to medicate and transition in Germany. Rant about how I had to prove that I am a woman to a judge, multiple psychologists, and doctors. I'm also explaining why trans adults can't just give up on trans kids. We don't want to turn the cis kids trans. We just want to give trans kids the care and representation that we desperately needed when we were younger. We're not indoctrinating anyone, we are literally just sharing our experiences. We like J.K. Rowling love claiming that this is all predatory and dangerous, but it couldn't be further from the truth. Trans kids deserve to be trans, and just because some ignorant people deny our existence doesn't make our struggles any less real.
Because there are so many of them.
I'm sharing my journey if this resonates with someone to the point where they realize why they've been so unhappy their entire life, and that's not a bad thing. Also by quote-unquote never leaving kids alone, I mean not giving up on trans youth and wanting more education. Trans kids exist, acknowledging that fact doesn't mean I deserve this harassment. Trans kids are working with multiple experts for a reason. I'm not joking about forcing anything on anyone, especially not children. I'm explaining what happens when you force trans teens through the wrong puberty and deny them access to life-saving gender affirming care and other resources.
All of this is
Ironically, it's them that are arguing for forcing things on kids. It's the anti-trans group. The trans kids are the ones screaming online about how they want access to their trans care.
Isn't that crazy how like all of it is literally like the same theme? Everything is just about like clearing up the misinformation and the malinformation and whatnot from right-wingers. Isn't that interesting? How this is like always the case? Explain why you want to force trans kids to go through the wrong puberty. Isn't it crazy that a trans rights advocate is talking about, you know, trans kids because she was one? Isn't it insane?
Yeah. God. It's gotta be rough for Nyara right now. Asmongold's audience can be unhinged, to say the least. They are probably not holding back even in the slightest. So I really hope she's able to hold tight, like hold fast, lock in and buckle down. You know, I'm hoping for the best. Hopefully, this kind of settles down soon. I mean, if Nyara ends up seeing the video, feel free to watch it on stream if you think that, like, my video backing you up helps to add to your positions and whatnot. But yeah, I think you got this. I think you got this, though. But, hell yeah. Go send some support over to Nyara TV. Link down below in the description to the YouTube channel if you want to go say some kind words. I'm sure it would be most welcome right now. But of course, if you ended up enjoying this video, if you found it entertaining, educational, or enjoyable in any way, then leave a like, a comment, and a sub down below if you want to see more from me. If you don't know what to say in the comments, comment rubber duck as a code word that tells me you watched this far into the video. It also helps the video a lot. Leave a hype if you want as well, and on top of that, please consider joining the fan Discord if you haven't already. It's the main hub of my community and fan base, and you'd be most welcome there. I hope to see you around. But until next time, have a good one.